Hello everyone, welcome back. We got our second off-season preview video here to discuss. We're looking at the next two teams who are eliminated from playoff contention, the Anaheim Ducks and Columbus Blue Jackets. We're looking at why they winded up missing the playoffs. We're looking at their RFAs, UFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming off-season. And we're looking at ways that they can improve so they can potentially improve and maybe make the playoffs a little bit next year. We'll get to all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the NHL Hockey Channel. Before we get into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I'm not able to do this without you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below discussing all I'll discuss in today's video. Now, I have our second off-season preview video here to discuss. Now, we just recently talked about the Hawks and the Sharks, so now we're going to be talking about the Anaheim Ducks and Columbus Blue Jackets. These were the third and fourth teams that were eliminated from playoff contention. We are doing this videos in pairs. So at this point in time, we're doing the Ducks and the Blue Jackets. So for the Ducks, this year they were not overly built to be a really good team. I mean, they had some improvements. Their forward group looked good. I mean, at the beginning of the season, they were actually 9-6-0. They had a really good run to start the season. They were looking pretty good, but after that, it really fell flat on their face. And even though they've been a decent team, not as bad as teams like the Hawks and the Sharks, they're still not a really good playoff team at this point in time. So, three reasons why I think this team wound up missing the playoffs. I mean, the injury bug really hurt this team. I mean, Killorn, who was their big offseason addition, has missed time a lot of time this year due to injuries. Brock McGinn's been in and out of the lineup due to injuries. Zegras, after his long contract negotiation, he's been in and out of the lineup due to injuries. Terry's missed time due to injuries. McTavish has missed time due to injuries. Henrique, before he was traded, missed time due to injuries. Radko Gudas has missed time due to injuries. There's definitely been a lot of injuries around that team. Mintyukov, who's been a really good blue liner on that blue line for the Anaheim Ducks, has also missed time due to injuries. So yeah, the injury bug has really hurt that Anaheim Ducks team. I don't think it's the major problem for the Anaheim Ducks, but it was a huge problem as to why they were so low in the standings. On top of that, young blue line, they definitely had a lot of youth on that team. I mean, Mintyukov's been a solid NHLer at this point in time. Lacomb's gotten a lot of NHL looks. Zellweger, they traded Drysdale earlier on in the season, so to have him be moved on, they had to kill up some of the younger players. They moved on from Leo Bushkin, so they moved on from a lot of their defensemen, so that had to infuse some more youth in that team. And as much as I think Zellweger and Mintyukov are ready for the NHL, I think there's a very likely chance that they do make a lot more mistakes given the fact this is their first NHL season. So given that fact, I think that's a very likely reason as to why the Ducks were such a bad team this year. On top of that, bad depth scoring. I mean, if you look at the team scoring-wise, they're the third worst team scoring, only have the two lowest teams in the NHL, and the Hawks and the Sharks. So given that fact, it's a really bad season there for the Ducks scoring-wise. I mean, if you look at the Ducks, only 4 players have gone over 40 points, and that's Troy Terry, Frank Vatrano, Mason McTavish, and Adam Henrique, who's been dealt to the Edmonton Oilers. And only 7 players have over 30 points, including Killorn, Fowler, and Strome. If you look at their goal scoring, only one guy has over 20 goals, and that's Frank Vatrano, who had 30. Besides him, no one else has over 20 goals. I mean, Cherry and McTavish both have close to them and could finish the season above 20 goals, but still, this team has not had overly good scoring, definitely not overly good depth scoring, and which is one of the reasons why I think that the Ducks were the third team eliminated from the playoffs this year. So, given the fact that this team had a lot of injuries this year, they dealt with a lot of injuries. The forward group was not overly great, besides guys like Vatrano, Terry, Henrique, McTavish, and the blue line is like super young right now, were probably the main reasons why I think this Ducks team wound up being eliminated quite early on. So those are probably the main reasons why I think the Ducks have now been eliminated for yet another season. If you look at some of their pending UFAs and RFAs, I mean, if you look at their UFAs, not anyone who's overly significant. I mean, Lagesson and Haig, who are both decent 6/7 defensemen, are going to be UFAs. I wouldn't be overly surprised if they both left. I got Jakob Silfverberg, who has been a really good veteran for that team, but a lot of people do think he'll go back to overseas after the season ends, so I definitely don't expect Silfverberg to be back. Ben Mayers was acquired at the trade deadline by the Anaheim Ducks. He's going to be a pending UFA. He's had 3 points in 18 games at the NHL level. I could see him be brought back. He's more of a younger UFA, but I could also see him leave, so we'll have to wait and see on that. As for the RFAs, you've got a couple of decent forwards, including Benoit Olivier Giroux and Brett Liaison and Max Jones, who are all decent bottom 6 forwards, so I could see him be brought back. Isaac Lindstrom's been a really good top 9 forward, so I expect him to be brought back by the Anaheim Ducks. You also got Jackson Lacombe, like we said, a really good young blue liner. I could definitely expect him to be back. Urho Vanakainen, who's actually been decently at the NHL level, so I could see him be brought in. And Gustav Lindstrom, who they acquired off of waivers. He's been a decent fit, but I won't be overly surprised if they let him go, so we'll have to wait and see on those. But those are some of the more significant pending RFAs. And then if you look at their draft capital for this upcoming season, they have 9 picks for this upcoming draft. They have their own and Edmonton's first-round pick, their own and Boston's second-round pick, their own as well as the Sharks and the Penguins' third-round pick, and then their own fourth-round pick and their own sixth-round pick. So lots of picks, especially in the top three. So very good stuff there for the Anaheim. And if you look at the way I think that this team can improve in the offseason, one would be to move Gibson and add a 1B goaltender. I mean, Gibson's a fantastic goaltender, don't get me wrong, but Dostal is definitely the goaltender right now. He's definitely the starter, the 1A. So I don't think you really want to be paying $6 million, over $6 million to a backup. So I think they can move Gibson, get him a fresh start, get him to that cup contender that he wants to go to, because there's a lot of teams looking for starting goaltenders right now. And then either via trade, potentially in that Gibson trade, or via free agency, or maybe a different trade, they try and bring in a backup goaltender who can really work well with Dostal. So that's sort of what I see the Ducks doing there. I think that they should move Gibson and bring in a 1B who's more suited to be a backup to Dostal. On top of that, I think they should add 1 to 2 more veteran defensemen. And as much as Leo Bushkin's a really good guy, and as much as Gudis has been a decent player, I think they need to add more top 4 defensemen. I think Zellweger, Minyakov have futures on that top 4. I think Fowler's still really a top 4 defenseman. But if they can add 1 to 2, maybe more top 4 defensemen, and maybe another third pair defenseman, I think that could really work out well for that Anaheim Ducks team. So we'll have to wait and see on that. They have to decide on Zegras. There's been a lot of talk this year that after Zegras' lengthy contract negotiation last year and his injuries so far this year, does the Zegras have a future in Anaheim? I mean, they have McTavish, they have Leo Carlson, they have a couple other really talented forwards. They're probably going to get another talented forward in the draft. So given all of that fact, they have to make a decision. Do they keep Zegras and do they continue to run with him, having him be a future stud and that team in mind? Or do they move him, get a massive return, and try and improve this team elsewhere? Definitely. I think that's going to be a situation to watch out for this offseason, and they're definitely going to need to make a decision there. In my opinion, I think they should move Vetrano. Vetrano's a very good player right now. He's leading the team in goal scoring. He had 30 goals. He's going to be trying to final year of his deal. If they can move Vetrano with his value this high right now, I think that'll be a smart move from the Ducks. Maybe not risk him going down production next year and maybe dropping a little bit in value. So with his high value right now, I think they should try and move Vetrano. And on top of that, continue to infuse more youth on this team. I mean, adding guys like Zellweger and Minyakov to that defensive end was really good. They probably should have Karagoche at the NHL level next year, hopefully, if he signs from the NCAA. So that could be really good for the Anaheim Ducks. So there's definitely, I think, a little bit more youth that's going to be infused in this team in the not too distant future. And I think that could really help this year Ducks team continue to improve. So that's sort of what I think with the Ducks. I mean, those are 3 reasons why I think they missed the playoffs. Those are the UFAs, RFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming draft. And those are the 5 ways I can see them improve in the offseason. And on top of that, I think the Ducks could be a decent team next year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I think they're still a little bit away from that. But I do think they can improve and be a much more competitive team next year. So that's, I think, for the Anaheim Ducks. For Columbus Blue Jackets, they were the first Eastern Conference team eliminated and the 4th team in total to be eliminated. So they did not have an overly good season. There was a lot of talk that this team was going to be better this year. There were adds a couple pieces in the offseason. They were supposed to be a better team this year, and they did. I mean, they fired Mike Babcock before the season even started. Pascal Vincent comes in. He hasn't done an overly great job coaching. Then you have Jarmo Kinkkalainen be fired. So this Jackets team is going to be a huge team watching the offseason because they need to get things right now to try and improve this team for the future. The 3 reasons why I think they missed the playoffs: they still have a pretty young forward group. I mean, as much as they have a couple of really good veterans on this team, they have guys like Marchenko and Chinnikov and Fantilli, who's had his first career NHL season, and a lot of really good young forward talents. So they're probably going to make a ton of mistakes. So as much as there's a lot of veterans on that team, this is still a more younger forward group on that Jackets team. So that's another reason why I think this team missed. Merzlikins, they're not played overly well this year. I mean, Tarasov, Martin have had to step in. They've done all right, but Merzlikins, who's supposed to be that team's starter, has been paid $5.4 million to be that team's starter, has not worked out overly well this year, and he's even requested a trade. So I think that's another reason why the Jackets were a mess this year. And then another bad injuries. I mean, last year they were completely riddled with injuries. This year wasn't as bad, but still, they definitely had a lot of guys out at certain points. I mean, Laine has been in the NHL Players Assistance Program. Fantilli is going to finish the season on injury reserve. You had Rosvik out for quite some time. Boone Jenner, I think, was out for a significant period of time too. Zach Werenski, I think, was out for a couple of weeks at one point. So yeah, they had a lot of bad injuries, which is another reason why I think. But as much as the injuries really set them back last year, it wasn't as bad this year, but it was another contributing factor. So the fact that they had a lot of injuries, the fact that they still have a pretty young forward group, and the fact that Merzlikins has not been overly good this year were 3 main reasons, in my opinion, why this Jackets team did not wind up making the playoffs again this year. If you look at the team's pinning UFAs, there's only one that has on that team right now, and that's Brendan Gaunce. I could see him be back as being a decent call-up option there for the Jackets, but I also could see him leave, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But I feel like the RFAs, they have a ton of RFA forwards. I mean, the defenseman, the lone guy who's an RFA, the defenseman is Jake Bean. I could definitely see him be brought back. He's a decent third pair defenseman, but wouldn't be completely surprised if the Jackets consider trading him. But I feel like the forward group, I mean, you have Carson Mayer, who's been a really good AHL player, who's going to be an RFA. You have Texas, who's been a really good top 9 forward, being an RFA. Chinikov is going to be an RFA for the Jackets. Alex Nylander is going to be an RFA for the Jackets. Cole Sillinger, Kent Johnson, Kirill Marchenko. I mean, Johnson's been up and down. Marchenko's been a really good goal scorer this year. Sillinger's been pretty good this year. Nylander, after being acquired from the Pittsburgh Penguins, has been fantastic for them. So they have a lot of business to take care of when it comes to their RFA forward group. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys out there who are going to need some extensions. So some pretty good stuff there for the Jackets. And then if you look at their draft capital, they only have 6 draft picks for this upcoming season. I mean, they have their first, their third, and the LA Kings third, and then their 4th, 5th, and 6th. So no second round picks for them this year, and no 7th round picks for them this year. And they do have the Kings 3rd round picks. So that's a really good plus for them, but still, they don't have a lot of draft capital for this upcoming season, given how low they are in the standings. So that's bad stuff there for the Jackets. 5 ways I can see this team improve in the offseason. One starts with Merzlikins. I think they need to move him or buy him out, one of the two. I think moving him might be a little bit more of a better solution. That way they don't have to have his contract on the books for as long of a period of time, but I do think they need to move on from Merzlikins. I don't think he's working out overly well, and I think they need to get a new starting goaltender, whether that's trading for a starter like a guy like Gibson or Saros or Markstrom, or trying to go after a different starting goaltender in free agency like a Kaapo Kähkönen or someone who can work as like a 1-8 Tarasov. I think they really need a new fresh goaltending duo in Columbus. So I think Tarasov's really good. I think he could be eventually the starter, but I think for now he's a good 1B and need to find someone who can complement him well. So I think they need to go out and try and find a starting level goaltender. I think they need to figure out what to do with Laine. He's got this year, but I think 2 more seasons at $8.7 million. That's a really bad contract for the Jackets. It'll be hard to move, but Laine's not had an overly great stint with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was a lot better in Winnipeg. So I do think they need to try and find a way to either make it work with Laine or move on from him and figure out if they can find a good trade that works for them. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but I think they either need to find a way to make things work with Laine or move him. On top of that, I think they need to move Provorov and or Boqvist. Both guys are doing decently. Boqvist, I think, is 1 or 2 years away from being a pending RFA. Provorov is a year away from UFA status. Provorov has worked out pretty well on the ice, but some people say he might still be a bit of a locker room problem. So I do think moving Provorov, especially with him being in the final year of his deal, might be a smart move for the Jackets. On top of that, Boqvist, there's been a lot of talk that he was going to get moved at some point. He still hasn't at this point in time, but I do think there's a very likely chance he will get moved. So one of or both Provorov and Boqvist, I think, will get moved in the offseason. I think they need to add new top 4 defensemen. I think especially if they were to move Provorov and or Boqvist, they need to continue to add another piece. I mean, Severson's worked out pretty good this year. Werenski's really good. They have a really good young stud, Juracek. They have a couple of other really decent players on the defense line too, but I think adding another top 4 defenseman could really help that team. So I think they could try and use that. I think they could also add 2 or 3 top 9 forwards. I mean, like I said, this is a really young team. They have Marchenko, Chinikov, Fantilli, a ton of really good forwards on that team, but I do think they could definitely use some more veteran help on that team. So I'm not be overly surprised that the Jackets continue to add some more pieces on that forward group, try and round out that top 9 really well. So that's my opinion of the Blue Jackets. Those were the 3 reasons why I think they missed the playoffs. Those were the RFAs, UFAs, and draft capital for this upcoming season, and those are the 5 ways I can see this team improve. And I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs. I didn't this year. I said they would be better, but just missed out, and I was completely wrong on that. So I'm saying that if they can make some more moves and make some things work, maybe get a better starting goaltender, we work that blue line a little bit, get some more depth on the forward group, I think they could be a team who maybe just misses out on the playoffs, maybe doesn't make the playoffs, but will be a lot more competitive next year. So definitely, those are my thoughts on the Columbus Blue Jackets and Anaheim Ducks. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on those 2 teams down in the comment section below. Do you think they're UFAs, RFAs? Which of those guys do you think will wind up being kept? On top of that, what do you think of their draft capital? Do you agree with me as to why those teams missed the playoffs? And what do you think those 2 teams need to do in the offseason to get it better for next year? Definitely let your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. So I'm going to talk for today. We're going to tell you this video, and if you're related, subscribe down below. Thank you for all your support and results of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below so I'll discuss in today's video. Also the blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So if you check that out, leave a link down in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.